Bonjour, and welcome to the Red Lake Nation College Gikendaasowin Podcast. Join us each week for discussions on topics including culture and language, career exploration, RLNC student spotlights, student projects, and other RLNC services. This week, RLNC's NEH podcast intern Rebecca Peterson interviews RLNC's Extension Program Coordinator Shelly Knight and RLNC Life Vision Coach Dr. Bonnie Ekstrom, conducted on May 24th, 2022. Red Lake Nation College would like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities for their generous support in the creation of this podcast. Bonjour. My name's Rebecca Peterson, and I'm here today interviewing Red Lake Nation College's Dr. Bonnie Ekstrom, Life Vision Coach, and Shelly Knight, Extension Coordinator at Red Lake Nation College on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. Welcome, Dr. Bonnie and Shelly. Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you guys please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Shelly. I'm the Extension Coordinator, and I work very closely with my colleague, Dr. Bonnie Ekstrom.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Bonnie Ekstrom, and I am the Life Vision Coach / counselor, and I help with Extension program.
Very nice. Can you guys tell me a little bit about your educational background?
Yeah, I like to brag a little bit about graduating from a 2-year community college to start my PhD. I finished my BS at Bemidji State University in psychology and then went on to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, Illinois to finish a master's and a PhD. So you can start with a 2-year degree and get to that PhD level.
Very nice. And for you, Shelly?
Yeah, I did my undergrad in upstate New York at Nazareth College. So there I studied anthropology, religious studies, and then also did some minors in gerontology and Asian studies. And then I went on to do my master's at Arizona State in American Indian Studies. And I think a lot of what I've learned at both those colleges have been very applicable here. So it's been a great opportunity to use that background.
And you also speak Mandarin, correct?
I do, yes. I try.
So what is your profession?
So my degree is in clinical psychology. So I've used my degree in lots of different ways. I've tended to do some sort of odd jobs in clinical psychology. I have worked in sex offender treatment. I worked in the Illinois Department of Corrections for 5 years while I was doing grad work in Southern Illinois, and recently worked for Sanford Behavioral Health in their outpatient clinic as well as their sex offender clinic. And now I'm doing kind of a great combination of what I love, which is doing some adjunct teaching for Red Lake Nation College in psychology and getting to talk to students and try and help them be successful during their semester.
That's awesome. I know that you are very helpful, and you always have a ear for the students if we need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
So it's much appreciated.
Thank you.
And you, Shelly?
So I started out doing a lot of volunteer work with my family's community, Mohawk Nation and other nations part of the Iroquois Confederacy. From there, I just got really inspired by family to continue working with tribal communities, nations. And I've been doing a lot of event coordinating and planning in my work. Actually have done some random jobs along the way. So, it's good to know that the journey to where you want to get is not always a very straight or clear path. But now I feel I'm really where I'm supposed to be, doing great work with the college.
Great. So what are your main responsibilities?
I help coordinate any type of program we have related to food, culture, health with Bonnie, and also education. And an example of that is we're starting to develop some customized trainings here.
How about you, Bonnie? What are your main responsibilities?
Yeah. So I've kind of branched out with Shelly in doing the extension stuff. We made pickles last summer. We made pickles from our leftover cucumbers, so that was kind of fun. I'm not really a gardener, but I'm kind of stretching what I do with the extension program. But typically, I spend a lot of time prepping for classes right now and starting new classes. I'm teaching this fall online, asynchronously for both of my courses, actually, which will be kind of interesting for the college, I think. They tend to do more in-person or high-flex. So, so I'm really thinking hard about those courses right now in intro psych and abnormal psych. So I do spend time prepping for classes. I leave my schedule as open as I can for any time students need to talk with me. Part of my job responsibilities is also to help students who might come in with any disability issues. And I kind of help them coordinate that and work that out and make some accommodations for their courses.
Okay. So how did you become interested in this field, and was it planned?
I can honestly say that since I was probably in second grade, I wanted to be a teacher. And this is kind of where I came up with this notion of life vision coach, because I think you can have a life vision, and I think it can start at a very early age, and you just literally need to keep your eye on it. And so when I decided to go on actually started out in elementary education. And I terrified myself thinking of being in a room with 30 children. I thought, I can't do that. What the heck am I thinking? So I took a psychology class at Bemidji State University in, I think it was human development or something. And it was just fascinating to me. And I thought, oh, maybe this is what I want to do. So I actually changed degrees when I was a junior and headed towards psychology, and then kind of never looked back. But I knew I always wanted to teach, so I just kept that vision in sight, and that's why I actually decided to get the PhD, because I knew I would have more teaching opportunities. So yeah, it's kind of always been in sight.
And you don't just teach at Red Lake Nation College, correct?
Correct. I've taught a lot of different places. I've taught for the University of Minnesota Morris, which is kind of one of our partner schools that we work with. I've also taught for Bemidji State University, and currently I teach some online courses for University of Minnesota Crookston.
Okay. So you got a lot of variety there.
Yes.
Shelly, how did you become interested in this field, and was it planned?
Yeah, I think definitely from my family. They're very inspiring. My granny was a educator in New York, and she did a lot of work with the Iroquois, herself being a traditional Mohawk storyteller. So she's inspired all of her grandkids, including me. I'm her adopted granddaughter. So I've just been really grateful for that family to help, guide me down this path. And then in American Indian Studies, when I was studying at Arizona State, I actually stumbled across airspace sovereignty, tribal airspace sovereignty, and really got into that field. And that one wasn't so planned, but I really love it. And luckily at the college, they let me do some drone flying for events, and that's been a lot of fun. And yeah, so it's been a wild, fun journey.
So what are your main responsibilities here at the college?
So my roles have kind of shifted a little bit. But I did some career counseling here, and now with community connections, I focus a lot on the cultural type programming. But sorry, lost my train of thought.
I want you to remember that you started as a Vista.
Yes, that's right.
And how your journey ended up. How do you end up in Red Lake, Minnesota from Rochester, New York? Really?
Right. Yeah. Google search. So I was looking for opportunities to work with tribal nations, and I just came across this AHEC Vista program and thought it would be fun to do programming with gardening, because that was one of the main responsibilities they said for the position was to work on the healing garden here. So with the healing garden, the purpose of that is for students and community members to really be able to connect with nature through gardening, connect with the community, but also learn more about the sacred medicine plants and how to grow them. So, yeah.
Nice. What do you like most about your work? I guess this is a question for both of you. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Shelly.
I just love interacting with the community and students so much. They teach you so much about, you know, what the needs of the community is. And I love that in our program, we can actually design and develop programs with their help to give them exactly what they need.
Nice.
Yeah. What was your question again?
I
got so fascinated by what Shelly was talking about there.
What do you like most about your work?
Oh, okay. What I would say is my mother grew up in Redby, but she more or less left. And so I wasn't raised traditional in any way, shape, or form, really. And so coming back, I am a Red Lake tribal member, and my 2 sons are as well. But just getting more familiar with the culture and the tradition and, interacting with some of the elders. And I've always loved interacting with students, which is why, you know, it just makes sense for me to be back working with students. That's always through teaching or through counseling now. That's just been a good fit.
So it's really a way for you to connect with your culture, like kind of coming home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and even if you know some things about your traditional knowledge, it's hard to know everything. So one thing I really appreciate about our program is that when we need to fill in those knowledge gaps, we can go to the elders, we can go to the community, and we can ask them to help us, and then we become the students ourselves. So I think that's been such a joy.
That lifelong learning.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So are you guys routinely offered professional development opportunities within the school?
Oh, yeah.
Really, with all of the stuff that has happened with COVID, the virtual ability to professionally develop is huge right now.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And literally, sometimes I look at my schedule, I'm like, I can't do that all because there's so many ways to, I look for a lot of ways to, for online teaching or HighFlex teaching or connecting with students. I kind of focus on that, but I also look at some counseling needs and some ways to develop in that way. And I just attended the Midwest Psych Association conference in Chicago, Illinois recently, which is a great way to just connect with other psychologists and, see what kind of research is being done out there. And so I think the professional development opportunities are great.
Nice. Yeah. I feel like the world, with COVID, so much has opened up for you to be able to do stuff right from the comfort of your own home.
Exactly.
And grow.
Especially being able to network with other nations. That's been great because I feel like we got to quickly connect with other tribal colleges, other extension professionals. And then even when the times when we are allowed to travel, when it's safe enough to do so, I got to do a conference at the UAV Expo, which is for drones, which was really cool because I met Indigenous peoples there who are helping to lead the industry for using drones for education, for public safety. So that's really opened some doors for us to actually work here at Red Lake with programs to apply those drones to different uses. So,
and you just recently won some awards, correct, for Indigiverse?
Oh yeah, so AHAC and tribal colleges helped put together a conference and film festival, and we were really grateful for them to recognize us. They really do a great job shining light on student, faculty, and staff's media work, and that was quite an honor.
Cool. So are there expectations that you had about this career path that differed from reality, either good or bad or both?
So for myself, when I first started here, which is right in the midst of COVID 2 years ago, I came on board as strictly counseling And, I just expressed an interest in my true love, which is teaching. Counseling is kind of like teaching. You're teaching one-on-one, an individual, but teaching has always been my passion and the direction that I've focused my career. So I kind of changed things up and, asked if I could maybe start doing some teaching for them. And I think the timing was good for the college as well, because they were going through accreditation, and, I think the timing just fit really well. So, yeah.
How about for you, Shelly?
I think my perception of working for a college, in reality, it turned out even better than I imagined, because here at Red Lake Nation, you really get to work one-on-one very closely with your colleagues. And so then you learn a lot from one another. And it's so great because, there's larger universities and colleges out there that maybe you don't get that opportunity. So, that's been much better.
Sure. Kind of a family environment.
Yes.
So what kind of programs are offered through the Red Lake Nation College Community Connection Extension Program?
Yeah, we've done a bit of everything. So we've done some programming for students that I'll let Bonnie talk more about. But we've also done some financial literacy, some cooking classes, gardening with youth, which has been quite a highlight. Love working with the youth here. And health awareness events and all kinds of art workshops like beading. We've done some mindfulness, so a lot of different programs. I think moving forward, though, our programming, we want to kind of focus more on food education, health, and cultural programming to make sure that we can develop those programs even better. Do you want to talk about your programs?
Sure. Yeah. So with Shelly's help and kind of connections, we have worked pretty closely with the University of Minnesota Extension, who also has an Indigenous focus program, and we've been able to do some Monday gathering awareness workshops, including suicide prevention, men's health and awareness. Through them and the tribe, actually, we've done an opioid awareness program. Also, my first year here, we actually went through our chemical health program here and had a speaker that was willing to talk about his own experience with suicide prevention and all. And so again, then my focus is kind of meeting students where they're at. In addition to this programming, I'm trying to reach them in whatever way they're willing to come and talk to me. And so I've tried to put myself out there in a few different ways. This last semester, I kind of just opened up from 12 to 1, and I called it Talk to Bonnie Fridays, where people can just drop in, ask questions, find out what I do, and maybe decide to get further counseling if necessary, or just get a little quick advice on something that they're dealing with. Through Life Vision Coaching, my vision for that is to really help students focus on some goals. Like I said, that life vision, that looking and seeing kind of the longer plan, but then breaking it down into, kind of chewable steps that can get you there, semester by semester, class by class. And so I kind of think what I do through Life Vision Coaching is just meet students where they're at. If we go deeper, we do. If not, I'm okay with that. I'm going to help you succeed through your semester is really what my goal is at the college. I want to see you succeed. And so, again, just focusing one-on-one with wherever a student is at and helping them get through a semester and sign up for the next one and make it through and get that AA degree and start thinking about their future in a longer-term way.
Okay. So is the extension programs available for the whole community, or is it specifically for the college students?
Yeah, it's definitely available to the whole community. We do a couple programs that are student focused, like our Timeout Tuesdays and Life Vision coaching, but everything else we do is very much open to the community. We really want families to get involved in those. In particular, the gardening, I think, is a great opportunity to families to learn and reconnect or continue connecting with their culture.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have an upcoming event, the Grow Community, the planting event, which is going to be, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so June 9th, 9 a.m. to noon, we'll be right out back in the backyard of the college. We have our garden and enclosed fence area to keep those bears away from our produce. Yeah. We'll be gathering there. Anyone is welcome to join. This year we have built it as a service learning program where you can enroll online. We on our Facebook page, RLNC Community Connections, you can get the link there to enroll. If you enroll, I think you'll be very glad you did, because there's different ways of interacting with everyone who will be taking part in that program. But also at the end, after you've completed your service learning project, you can get a certificate. It is non-credit, but it will be a great experience. And if COVID has taught us anything, it's definitely how important it is to have those community connections, to really feel like you belong to a place in a community, and we want to create that through the garden event. We're going to have so many different activities. You can learn about pollinator plants, heirloom seeds, about traditional medicines, and we will have language teachers from the immersion school and charter school there to help us. And then we will have Four Directions Development helping us as well, and our college's soil research interns coming to give some guidance on gardening. So it's a very big collaborative project, and we're excited to work with the community in this way.
It sounds like a very big community event. You guys will be working with the children as well, correct?
Yeah. So children from the St. Mary's Mission, the immersion school, and anyone's invited. If the high school students want to get involved, the elementary, this really is designed for all ages, even adults who want to learn about gardening. Like Bonnie and I are, like she said, we're not gardeners, so we're really learning and relying on the community to help us do this program. So
okay, so you have that event, but there's a couple other aspects to this as well that goes throughout the summer.
Yeah. So it starts with a planting event in June, and then later when things are ready to harvest, we'll have another event inviting the St. Mary Mission children and everyone else who got involved back. When they harvest, they'll then take the produce to a tribal program that needs it. We've been reaching out to the Elderly Nutrition Program and the Senior Apartment Center to see if they would like and could use the produce. And yeah, anyone else who's interested in the future too, collaborating, we can provide the food too. But and then at the end, they'll come back for Eco Festival in August. So it's going to be our very first Eco Festival, celebrating all the sustainable projects on the reservation.
Beautiful. So will that be an annual event then?
For now, biennial, but we'll try to aim for annual if we can.
Okay. So what are you guys planning on planting in the garden this year?
Yeah, we've got some heirloom seeds. Dakota Black Pop is the corn we'll be planting.
Okay.
We have some other plants that are named Dakota because I know they're from this northern region, and they hold up to winter and frost pretty well, which is something we definitely had to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a short growing season, but we'll have some pollinator plants like bee balm, and then your like cucumbers, which when they come back for the harvest, we'll clean, cut up, and serve for lunch. So students also be able to bring some stuff home to cook themselves. So,
okay. If people are not able to join in the planting event, what are some other ways that they can help?
Yeah, I think garden at home, right?
Exactly.
We want to, definitely encourage people to garden at home. Whatever doesn't get planted in the garden, if we run out of room, we'll be working with 4 Directions Development to then distribute out to the community. So if you want to take some plants home, you can plant them in your own garden, start a garden. We'll have white cedar. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of leftover white cedar. So if you want to plant a tree at home, we encourage that.
Cool. So what do you picture when you imagine the future of the garden as Red Lake Nation College continues to grow?
Do you want to share?
Go ahead. I mean, really the healing garden was kind of like, I guess, Shelly's brainchild, really, and something that she was, really wanting to focus on. And I think we're going to start taking off now with hopefully COVID behind us mostly, and where people can actually come out and enjoy. But, I know I'm going to put you on the spot, Rebecca, because I know you are very interested in gardening as well, and the native plants and all. And, so we're just really trying to encourage the community and students to help us and get involved to help it grow. And, we'll have to do some thinking about how we kind of invite and coordinate with our Minneapolis students and all, but we'd want to get them involved as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And we'll be trying to set up transportation for anyone who wants to come to work on the garden in future years. I'm not sure if we're ready with transportation this year, but we're going to try every effort we can. We know how limiting transportation can be. I do want to add that I did actually adopt the Healing Garden project from Nokomis, who is our prior extension director. So I'm really grateful that, she had built that into the program and that I'm fortunate enough to adopt that project.
Well, it's very exciting, everything that's happening here and as we grow. What advice would you give someone who is considering your career?
I've actually had a lot of students say, I really want to be a psychologist. I really want to do that. And I'm very open to talking to students about really the reality of what that means to go on further for education. Some may aspire to a master's degree, and you can do clinical work and teaching with a master's degree. Some may decide to go on further for a PhD. And, there's a lot involved in kind of focusing your world in that direction. I like to really explain to students that when I started my program, I think there was a cohort of about 16 students, and 2 people were married. I was one of them, and another student, and that student had a child. But you kind of put your life a little bit on hold, and so it was 10 years into my marriage that I said, hey, I want to have kids. So you kind of refocus, you sometimes change direction and put your eggs in one basket in some way. It can take several years to finish a PhD, and there's no necessary deadline, due date, whatever. It's whatever you feel like you're wanting to pursue. But I want to help students understand what that process is, and I'm very open to talking with them further about what that looks like. I have had several students, show an interest.
Okay. Shelly, what advice would you give someone considering your career?
Yeah, so I would highly recommend a background in American Indian Studies. I think it's been an extremely helpful guide for how I do my work. The American Indian Studies paradigm is something I use in all my work. It really teaches about how we all have a sacred responsibility, whether you're a teacher, you're a program coordinator, whatever it may be, that it's a sacred responsibility, and to really center Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous language. So I use that a lot in my work, and I think it can definitely help other people in my line of work. But even before then, I think interning here at the college is a great opportunity to really learn what what we do work with us and eventually be where we are, because extension program in particular, that program across the country, especially with TCUs, is growing. So there's going to be more opportunities for people. And right now we're looking for interns in AmeriCorps Vistas. So yeah, get involved.
All right. Is there anything you would like to add before we conclude?
I want to put a plug in for a program you were talking about, just professional development. And what I forgot to mention was Shelly and I are actually going to be attending what it is called, Native Summer Workshop session, basically. It's actually sponsored through University of Minnesota Morris is actually sponsoring us to go to that event. And basically we're going to just be literally immersed in kind of learning Native-focused ways, Indigenous ways of teaching, Indigenous ways of interacting in our community. And I'm looking forward to kind of just expanding my teaching efforts and adding more of those Native ways, Indigenous knowledge to the way that I teach. Because basically my degree was pretty Western focused. Mm-hmm. And so I know that I need to grow in that area. So this is a perfect opportunity. So we're going to Grand Portage, the end of the world, for about a week, and just really getting to immerse ourselves in learning more Indigenous ways.
Cool.
Yeah, and I just want to say how grateful I am. We're both grateful that, you, Rebecca, as a student at the college and community member here at Red Lake, that you are involved in this podcast, that you're doing the work you're doing. It's amazing, and we love seeing your journey here.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I am very happy that you came here and
thank you.
Hung out.
Miigwech.
Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Be sure to join us next week as we hear from Red Lake Nation College student Mitchell Johnson. A chi miigwech to the following for their efforts in the creation of this Red Lake Nation College Gikendaasowin Podcast episode. Opening and closing music by Director of Equity, Cultural Education and Archives, Floyd Buck Jourdain. Opening introduction and closing preview by NEH podcast intern Rebecca Peterson. Our host this week, NEH podcast intern Rebecca Peterson. Our guest speakers this week, RLNC Extension Program Coordinator Shelly Knight and RLNC Life Vision Coach Dr. Bonnie Ekstrom. Production by Innovation Center Coordinator Brandon Spears and NEH podcast intern Rebecca Peterson. And the National Endowment for the Humanities for their generous support.